Perfect. What are the implications, positive and negatives, if we think and we see Latin America as a whole? I'm from Mexico City. I was born in Mexico City, and I've never considered myself as a Latin American until I moved to the United States.
Well, I have always thought that the term Latin America was very problematic because, after all, it is a term that derives from 19th century sociology. It privileges Latin, which is a European ancient language, and it is really not very descriptive of what the totality of the Americas is. I much prefer to simply use the term the Americas. I have lived most of my life in the United States, but I spent a considerable amount of my childhood in Mexico as well. And I remember being confronted with a completely different society. I thought that Mexico was a place that had very much of its own identity, and then when I began to study and travel to the rest of Latin America, one realizes Cuba, Argentina, Uruguay, Ecuador, etc. are all extremely distinct units, and of course there are hundreds and hundreds of different languages spoken all throughout the islands in the Caribbean, and the mainland of Mesoamerica and South America. So, in fin, the idea of Latin America is somewhat of a fiction, as a matter of fact. But it's a convenient term, and we're always looking for convenient terms to define concepts.
It seems like it works for the collective, right?
It works for the collective, but there is really no specific collective.
Right.
There's all the regional differences, geographically, historically, linguistically, in every way, define the places, and even, for example, Mexico, Brazil, huge countries, the regions are very important. If you travel in Mexico, for example, if you go to from Michoacan to Chiapas, there's like two different worlds.
Right.
So again, Brazil, if you go from the northeast to the south, you find a totally different civilization.
That's true. That's true. Why do you think Latin American art has not had the recognition it deserves? Why it's in some cases it's even derivative and it's not being seen as what it should?
Well, partly the fact that Latin American art is only becoming very popular in the last, say, 20 or 30 years. Although, to be fair, there has been a great interest in Europe and the United States, and of course in Latin America itself, for many, many generations of art. But I think that part of what you're asking me has to do with the hegemony or the domination, both economically and politically, of the art worlds that are richest, and those are in Europe and in the United States. And there are certain institutions in the United States. The Museum of Modern Art, for example, has been very important in creating a series of ideas about what modern art is. And those were, at the very beginning, with the first founder of the museum, Alfred Barr, who was interested in Latin America and traveled there. He definitely included Latin America in his scheme, but I think since then, during some years of the past, it has not been shown very much. And the idea of the importance of certain large cities like Paris and New York have tended to dominate. But that idea of dominant cities is really no longer viable in cultural terms, and thus many areas of art, Eastern European art, South Asian art, East Asian art, Latin American, Caribbean art, are being looked at with new eyes, with eyes that are searching for a wider variety of expression.
Right. I even like the concept that you mentioned down there. We are bringing Haiti and the French language into consciousness.
Exactly. In our discussion of the Americas, I think we are absolutely obliged to look in a very, very broad spectrum, and the French component of the Americas, that is to say Haiti, the islands of Guadeloupe, Martinique, and the Dutch-speaking countries, Curacao, Aruba, all of these places form part of this larger form of consciousness and culture.
Yeah. And just the last question as what is the relevance? I mean, you are a curator, but you are also an academic and a scholar. What is the relevance of and the implications for the art history programs to have such a huge launching of this archive?
The launching of this archive is an immensely important tool to promote scholarship. It is not the only tool, of course, and people still will have to consult archives and look at the objects that were the things about which people were writing. But the availability on the web or in printed form of thousands of documents eventually will be able to, allow us a view into areas of art, areas of thinking about art, and expressing thoughts about it that we never knew before, because they were buried in private libraries, or they were in hard-to-find periodicals and small exhibition catalogs, and so this will bring into existence a very much broader world of understanding of the art of the Americas.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you.